Hi, and welcome back to the $1,000,000 Events Podcast. This is the place for coaches and content creators who want to host in-person events. Absolutely do this with grace, with ease, and with experience. So grab your favorite kombucha. Today, mine is coffee, tea, water, whatever it is, and let's dive right in. Now, today, I am going to talk to you about, got my little handy-dandy notes, 5 questions you must ask the hotel before you sign the hotel contract. Now, it doesn't matter if it's for a retreat or for a conference. Regardless of where you're staying, you need to be asking the property these questions. It's super important because it will impact the attendee experience. And over here on the $1,000,000 Events Podcast, we are all about the attendee experience, because when you kill it on the attendee experience, you will have repeat customers, you will grow your income, grow your authority, and be known as the it girl. And once you're known as the it girl, you will never have to worry about selling again. Without further ado, let's dive right in. The first one, ask the property, is there any construction or improvements planned at the property? So this is really, really, really important, because sometimes, especially if it's a hotel, they have renovations built into their plan, and they don't always tell you up front when or what they're. And so when you ask the question, is there any improvements, constructions, renovations I need to know about? It's important, because if the hotel is under construction, you're going to be able to hear it, you're going to be able to see it, you're going to be able to smell it, and it quite literally disrupts the vibes of the whole thing. So I have 2 stories on this. The first one is one of my clients, and they have a separate, they have 2 silos of events going on. I plan one, and then there's the other side. And this past week, they hosted a conference in Niagara Falls in New York. The property said that they were going to start and finish the renovations in 2023. Well, it's 2025, and 40% of the rooms were completed, and the renovations were not anywhere close to being done. They had to move forward with the contract, but it definitely impacted and created a lot of stress around my clients. Everything was impacted because they have a standard of excellence when it comes to the location, the property, what it looks like, how it flows, and all the things like that. And since the renovations weren't done, it was an older property. It was not what they thought that they were signing up for. And they have actually rolled the contract year to year, waiting for these renovations to be complete, and they still weren't. They had to go forward with the meeting anyway, but it definitely wasn't the vibes that they signed, anticipated, or were promised. The second story I have, one of my other clients hosted a conference in Louisville, Kentucky, and the hotel did not disclose that they were under construction at all. And during the meeting, you could hear the jackhammer. This is 300 plus people, and you could hear the jackhammer, and you could smell the lacquer or whatever chemicals that they were using to do whatever they were doing. They were jackhammering on the roof of the meeting space during the meeting. And let's just say that the hotel definitely paid for that. There was a lot of discussions afterwards of how we're going to be compensated, because this was absolutely distracting. It was terrible. It smelled awful. They had to open up doors to get some airflow. It was just the worst. So those are the 2 examples I have about just the property not being complete. Let's move on to number 2, the second question that you need to be asking the property, whether you're hosting a retreat or a conference. Is there any construction around the property or in the area of where you're going to be? So the first thing I talked about was construction at the hotel itself. The second question is there any construction around where we're going to be? Because that also matters. I was in Boise 2 weeks ago, and there was a literal apartment building being constructed next door. While gratefully we couldn't hear it during the meeting, some of the attendees said that they were woken up with the construction noise at 7 a.m. Now, breakfast started at 8, They're probably having to get up at that time anyway, but it was more or less annoying that they heard construction before they heard their alarm. So that can impact sleep quality. Another story of this is I was supporting a retreat in Tulum, Mexico. And I always ask this question, but for whatever reason, it wasn't answered well. So the property next door was being built. And I also had people, my client and myself had people that had been to this property, had toured the facility, it was even recommended to us by some people who lived there. So we didn't think anything of it. And so once we got there and we heard the construction, now, like, we needed complete silence for some of this. And we never got that. Once we heard the construction, I was messaging and she was messaging our people, and we're like, did you not hear construction? Was there not construction going on while you were here? And my third party person, she was like, oh yeah, but we never heard it, so we didn't think anything of it. And like at one point we just started to make jokes about it. It's like, we're all under construction. So that's why there's construction here, is because we're all under construction. It was a feminine embodiment retreat. So like we were getting to the root cause of some trauma, some little t, big T traumas in our life and working through that. And so the construction turned into like a metaphor, but also literal construction. And we just had to laugh it off. There was no amount of music we could play at any volume to drown it out. Unfortunately, some of the construction woke people up because there was one villa that was closer to the construction than the other. So it was really kind of unfortunate circumstances. And even when you ask, you might not even get the real answer, but you need to ask so you have it in writing so you can be like, hey, what's up with this? Like, you didn't say that this was going to happen. How are we going to be compensated? Because if you don't ask it and you don't have it in writing, then there's really not a lot of leg to stand on unless there's something in your contract that allows you to have a little bit more teeth when it comes to complaining about these things. All right, number 3. Are there restaurants within walking distance to the property? So this is especially important for events that might not include all of the food. So with retreats, we try to include most of it. With the meetings, we don't include any of it. Why that's important is people aren't going to want to Uber for every meal. And it honestly yields a better attendee experience because they can walk to places, they have options, they don't need to get their cart out, they don't need to drive around, and it's generally a quicker experience if they don't have to drive anywhere. So when you're looking at location of the property itself, it can be a deal breaker for your attendee experience if they have to drive to lunch. That also means that they have to have a car, they have to Uber to and from, and that just adds up in expenses. Instead, choose a location where there's a lot of options around that's within walking distance to make it easy for your attendees. All right, number 4, will there be another group hosting an event around hours? This is especially important for hotels because sometimes with these bigger properties, bigger hotels, like they can host multiple events at the same time. And even with the small ones, I've had to compete with other events happening, like a crafting show was next door, or like an RN training, like a registered nurse training was next door. And while a lot of the time it doesn't have to be a big deal, but it's important to say, hey, I want my group to be together. I want the rooms to be close together. I don't want them to have to go to different floors when we're going to a breakout session. But also, I don't want a whole bunch of random people walking through my area of foot traffic, which is anywhere that there could be coffee, tea, water, cookies, any kind of food. And honestly, I don't want to have to answer questions. Like me at the registration table, there was a meeting in Chattanooga where we were the only group at the hotel, but the hotel was attached to a conference center. And I spent like hours telling people where to go. And eventually it got to the point where after 20 people was asking me with the hotel, I was like, hey guys, this isn't my job to direct them to where they need to go. I'm not sure if it's your job or not because the event's technically with the conference center, But can we put up some signs, tell people to not go this way? Because even with the logo of my client on the tablescape and signs of our meeting name around us, people still came up and asked me, hey, is this the such and such conference? No, it's not. And you're about the 20th person. Walk that way. It became very annoying. Another example of this is when there's two groups like side by side, I've had to stop people from eating our food. I've had to stop people from taking, sometimes we have like little badge stickers that say extroverted or friendly or bookworm or accountant, little things, little flags, podcaster, whatever. I've had to stop people from taking those off of our table. We also might have like little gotchas, like little stress balls or branded keychains or magnets or whatever. I've had to stop people that were not in our group from taking those things. Because even though it's like they're not in the group, people still are just like, oh, hey, I'm gonna do this. And so when you are in a space that you're not necessarily isolated, you definitely have to have someone on watch to make sure that like your stuff isn't taken to the people that shouldn't be taking it. And then the final question that I always ask before I sign the contract with the property for an event is your hotel up for sale? And this can go for a retreat property too. Is your hotel up for sale or intending to be sold in the next 12 months? This is so important because you're usually planning these events 6+ months out from when the date is. And literally anything could happen. But what's really important to know about if they're intending to sell is, I just said sale really weird, is the quality of the employees, the quality of the service, the quality of the hotel. Everything can go downhill between the time that you go and look at the property and decide on the property and after if they've sold. So again, this goes back to attendee experience. If you're in a hotel that used to be phenomenal but isn't anymore and they sold, selling can impact everything. Because also the people who they sold it to, they don't know who you are. They don't know who you're about. Like all of that relationship building that you've done between when you sign the contract and now is basically gone because it's all new people. They don't know you. They don't know what you're doing here, why you are having an event. And so it can really be frustrating because these people don't know. And it's like you're having to start over again from scratch. And if they're not willing to maintain the property, then you also have a quality issue again. Now, the location might be good. It might be walking distance to things, but the rooms might smell weird. And it's almost like the hotel's been catfishing, which I mentioned before in other podcasts, like hotels catfish on their website photos. Like the photos could be 6 or 7 years old and the hotel just doesn't look the same because of normal wear and tear. The similar vibe or a similar thought process is the same with when they sell or change hands. I was supporting an event in Aurora, Colorado, which is right outside of Denver. It's actually closer to the Denver airport than it is Denver proper. My client at the time did a proper site visit, selected this property, said it was great. They were giving her everything that she wanted. She signed the contract. And then between that and when we hosted the event, now she retired in between those times too, I took over as the primary planner. And the hotel was awful. The hotel was awful. We walk in, it's dark, it's dingy. The meeting space is in the basement. There's no windows. It's all like this yellow, goldy brown color. And we're just like, what is happening? The food, not good. Cold, just not good. They billed us for the wrong things. There was only 2 people working. It was just like the microphones kept going out. It was just not anything that we would have ever have chosen. And when I called her up and I was like, hey girl, it's weird here. Like, what do you remember? You did the site visit. Like, what do you remember happening like during site? Like, did it look like this? And she was like, no, absolutely not. They must have sold. And then I confirmed with the city that they had sold and they changed hands to a company that was just kind of running it into the ground. They just did not care to upkeep any of the things. Like the water tasted weird. Like, I'm serious right now. We couldn't drink the tap water. It was weird. That kept messing up our reservations. And still, and this is something I'm not proud of. To this day, it has been over a year. To this day, they have yet to bill me or supply an invoice for the event itself. I've tried. I've reached out 12 times. They sent me an invoice one time. I was like, all of this is wrong. Please correct it and resend. Crickets. I've contacted the corporate office. I've contacted the city. I've contacted like different salespeople associated with this hotel chain. Nothing. Crickets. So I had to tell my clients, I was like, I've done what all I can do and I don't know anymore. So as long as they haven't charged you, like, let's just roll with it, because headquarters still forwarded me to the same people that weren't answering my emails or my phone calls. Washed my hands of it. It was a terrible experience. Terrible experience. Know this ahead of time. And honestly, have a clause in your hotel contract that says like they have to notify you if they're changing hands, and like you have some sort of recourse if you want to cut ties and go somewhere else. It's very, very important. I would even do a site visit like 3 months into new ownership before you really announce the event, because you literally never know what you're walking into. All right, you guys. So that is it for today's episodes. These are 5 things that you should really, really, really ask your property before signing any kind of contract for your retreat or your conference, because these things can absolutely make or break the experience. If you want to learn more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be coming on here every week and spewing knowledge about hosting your first or your next $1 million event. All right, you guys, I'll see you in the next one.